Long before iron banners crowned the hills, before stone fortresses split the horizon and the coast was drowned beneath ash winds and war, there lived a people known as the Red March. They measured time not in years, but in battles survived. To them, death was not an ending, it was a debt. Every drop of blood spilled in defense of the clan was a promise made to the earth, and every warrior who fell with others behind them was believed to leave part of their strength behind. A life did not belong only to the body that carried it. It belonged to the tribe, to the fires, to the unborn children who would one day inherit the scars of those who stood before them. Among them rose a chieftain, unlike any other. He was not the strongest of his people, nor the fastest with blade or spear. His gift was simpler and far more terrible. He refused to fall. Where others saw wounds, he saw only interruption. Where others heard the final silence closing in, he heard the distant rhythm of drums calling him back to his feet. His warriors said the earth itself hated letting him go. On the final day of the Red March, an army descended upon the drowned coastline, outnumbering the tribe 100-fold. The enemy came with iron masks, war beasts, and torches bright enough to turn the sea red. By dawn, the shore was already covered in bodies. By noon, the clan's banners had burned. By dusk, only the chieftain remained, standing between the invaders and the last children of his people. He fell 3 times that day, and the first blow split his ribs and filled his lungs with salt and blood. His warriors saw him collapse into the surf, certain the tide would carry him away. But he rose again, coughing red foam, dragging his axe through the wet sand. The second fall came beneath the weight of a war beast. Its hooves shattered his leg and drove him into the mud. Still, he pushed himself upright, bone grinding beneath him, his breath turning into a low rhythm like a distant drum. The third fall should have ended him. A spear pierced his heart and pinned him to the earth like a torn banner. For a moment, the battlefield fell silent. Then the chieftain moved. No one knew how he stood. Blood poured from him in a steady river, yet the river never seemed to empty. His wounds closed not gently, not cleanly, but with brutal insistence, as though time itself had been forced backward against its will. Torn flesh remembered wholeness. Broken bone recalled its shape. Blood already spilled upon the ground seemed to answer the body that had lost it. The invaders stepped back. His own people watched in terror and reverence as their chieftain advanced. Every breath wet with death, every step impossible. He did not rage, he did not cry out. He simply moved forward, standing where no living body should have stood. In that moment, the Red March understood what he had become. Not immortal, not blessed. A vessel. A body that remembered what it meant to remain whole, even when the world had already decided otherwise. He reached the last children of his tribe before the final blades came down. With one ruined arm, he shielded them. With the other, he raised his weapon one final time. When the enemy line broke, it was not because they had been defeated. It was because they had seen a man die too many times and continue walking. When the battle ended, the chieftain stood facing the sea. Behind him, the remnants of the Red March gathered in silence. No victory songs were sung, no drums were struck. The wind carried ash across the shore, and the tide moved around the bodies as though afraid to touch him. His heart beat like a fading drum. Once again, slower, the shamans came forward, their hands stained with ochre and fueler ash. They did not mourn him, not yet. Mourning was for endings, and they believed his final act had not ended. When his breath began drifting toward the horizon, they performed the rite of the returning pulse. They gathered not flesh, not bone, not even the blood that had gone cold. They gathered the last surge of warmth within him, the final living force that had risen when he shielded another life from death. That moment, they said, was not death. It was defiance made liquid. His blood was poured into a hollow relic grown from sacred bark, riverstone, bone, and pale jade. The vessel had been prepared for generations, bound with the remains of those who had died defending the tribe. Around its heart-shaped frame, the shaman's wound cords died in sacrificial ochre. Ash from the ancestral fires was mixed into the crimson draught. The chieftain's hand still gripped the rim when the seal was closed. The moment his heart stopped, the liquid within began to move. It did not clot. It did not cool. It remembered. They named it the Heartwell of the last chieftain. It was not a memorial, it was a promise. The reliquary did not shine like a holy relic. It throbbed, slowly, deeply, like a second heart waiting for a chest to claim. Those who carried it said the stone grew warmer near battle. Others claimed they heard a faint pulse beneath its carved surface when blood was spilled in defense of the weak. For many years, the Heartwell remained sealed beside the clan's ancestral fires. No warrior dared drink from it lightly. The shamans warned that the vessel did not create life. It returned only what had nearly been lost, that it did not forgive weakness. It did not erase death. It reached into the brink and pulled back what still belonged to the bearer. Only those who stood between ruin and another's survival were considered worthy of its crimson draught. The Heartwell was never owned. It was carried, passed from hand to hand, from champion to champion, from one desperate final stand to the next. Generations later, when the Red March had become legend and its descendants wandered through broken coasts and war-scarred valleys, the Heartwell was opened again. A champion drank from it after a blade had opened him from shoulder to spine. Those who watched expected a miracle. What they saw was something harsher. The wound did not close like healing flesh. It reversed. Blood withdrew from the soil. Torn muscle pulled itself together with violent memory. Bone returned to its unbroken shape. The champion gasped as though drowning in light, his body surging back toward the moment before the strike had landed. He did not heal Dart, he returned. For a brief span, pain could not end him. Death waited beyond reach, held back by the slow drumbeat rising within his chest. But when the rhythm faded, the truth came with it. Every blow denied by the Heartwell returned as weight. Every wound refused became exhaustion. Every moment stolen from death demanded to be carried. The Heartwell granted a second heartbeat. Nothing more. Many champions became legends through the Heartwell. None kept it long. Some grew fearless after tasting its power. They walked into spear walls, trusting the relic to answer every mortal error. Others waited until the final instant, believing the vessel would always pull them back. A few waited too long. They died, with the reliquary warm in their hands, their bodies never reaching the moment of return. The shamans had spoken the truth. The Heartwell did not grant immortality. It did not make warriors invincible. It restored only those who endured long enough to prove that their life still had purpose beyond themselves. Those who drank deeply sometimes felt their heartbeat change. It slowed into the measured rhythm of a war drum, steady and ancient. In that rhythm, they felt another will beside their own. Not mercy, not comfort. A command. Stand. Again. Behind them, in the instant of recovery. Some claim to see a towering figure, broad-shouldered, blood-soaked, his hands pressing down upon their shoulders as if forcing them back to their feet. Others said the vision was not protection, it was judgment. You were spared. Now stand as he did. Over time, the Heartwell passed beyond the descendants of the Red March. It crossed kingdoms, battlefields, ruined temples, and nameless graves. Wherever it appeared, stories followed. A soldier rose after an arrow pierced his throat. A guardian returned from a wound that should have emptied him. A nameless defender stood again long enough to hold a gate, while children escaped through smoke. Each time the reliquary grew warmer. Each time the crimson draught pulsed deeper. Some believed the Chieftain's final stand was being repeated endlessly through other bodies. Others believed the vessel was slowly spending the last of him, drop by drop, until nothing remained but silence. The legends agree on one thing. When the Heartwell finally runs dry, the last warrior to drink from it will hear a second heartbeat within their chest, not their own. The heartbeat of the Chieftain who never allowed his people to die alone. And when that final bearer stands at the edge of oblivion, with death close enough to breathe against their face, the choice will be the same as it was on the drowned coastline of the Red March. Fall or rise. For the Heartwell does not defeat death. It does not promise victory. It only reminds the living what defiance costs. And for one impossible instant, when the world narrows to the single blow that should end everything, life may answer with a deeper pulse and refuse to be finished.